They told me the house was alive, that every whisper, every sigh, every secret you spoke within its walls was never really gone. It was my grandmother's house. I hadn't seen her in years, not since she went deaf. They said she died. Listening, the realtor handed me the keys with a look that was part pity, part warning. "It's a bit of an old place," he'd said. "Got character?" He just nodded, too lost in thought to care about his real estate jargon. The long drive out here had given me too much time to think about Grandma, about the stories she used to tell. Stories of a house that held on to memories a little too tightly. Pulling up to the property, it was even more imposing than I remembered from childhood photos. A lone, two-story farmhouse from the 1920s, standing like a forgotten monument against a perpetually gray sky. The trees surrounding it were skeletal, their bare branches reaching for the windows like gnarled fingers. As I got out of the car, a cold wind snaked around me, carrying the faint, lonely sound of a wind chime from a porch I couldn't quite see. I stood there for a long moment, my own heartbeat a slow, heavy drum in my ears. I could have sworn I saw a curtain twitch in an upstairs window, but I dismissed it. Just the draftiness of an old house. Just my imagination running wild. The front door groaned open, revealing a cavern of dusty air and silence. Moving in was an eerie affair. Every box I slid across the wooden floor sent an echo skittering into the far corners of the house, a sound that seemed to last just a second too long. My own footsteps had a strange resonance, as if the floorboards were hollowed out beneath me. The house seemed to react to my presence, creaking and groaning in a strange, responsive rhythm to my every movement. As I was wrestling with a heavy box of books, I muttered to myself, out of breath, "It's just the wind." From the far end of the long hallway, a whisper, thin as a spider's thread, drifted back to me. ... The wind. I froze, every muscle in my body tensing. It was my own voice, but distant, faded. I stood perfectly still, straining to hear anything else. But there was only silence, the heavy, oppressive silence of a place that was waiting. That first night was when the real dread began to set in. Sleep was impossible. I lay in bed, my eyes wide open, in the dark, listening. The house had a rhythm, I realized. It wasn't just random creaks and groans. There was a pattern. On the hour, every hour, the old timbers would let out a sound like a long, deep sigh. And at the stroke of midnight, a low murmur would ripple through the walls. A sound like a crowd of people all whispering at once, just too quiet to make out the words. The clock on the bedside table ticked, and between each tick, I started to hear them. Faint whispers, weaving in and out of the silence. They were my own words from the day, played back to me in fragments. "Where's the kettle? I'm so tired. It's just the wind." But as the night wore on, the echoes began to change. When the whisper of "it's just the wind" came back this time, a new voice finished the sentence. A cold, clear whisper right beside my ear. "It's not the wind." By the third day, I was convinced I was going crazy. I needed proof, something tangible to convince myself that this wasn't all in my head. I found an old micro-cassette recorder in one of my grandmother's drawers. That night, I placed it on a small table in the hallway, pressed the record button, and went to my room. Locking the door behind me. The next morning, my hand trembled as I rewound the tape. I pressed play. At first, there was nothing but the low hiss of static. Then, after about an hour of tape, a new sound emerged from the hiss. Breathing, slow, shallow, and definitely not mine. And then, my own voice, whispering things I know I never said. Clear as day, it whispered, "She's awake." Then a pause, and another chilling phrase, "Don't look behind you." There was one door in the house I hadn't opened yet, a squat, heavy oak door under the main staircase, secured with a rusty bolt. The door to the basement, a muffled thudding sound from below the floorboards, finally gave me the courage, or the desperation, to face it. The air grew colder, heavier. With each step, I took down the creaking wooden stairs. The smell of dust and decay was overwhelming. At the bottom, a single bare bulb cast a weak, yellow light over the scene, and what I saw made my blood run cold. Pinned to the stone walls, in neat, terrifying rows, were hundreds of old hearing aids, all different shapes and sizes, from ancient ear trumpets to more modern devices. They were like grotesque trophies, a collection of ears. In the center of the room, a dusty gramophone sat on a crate. Its horn was aimed at the ceiling, and from it came a torrent of faint, overlapping whispers, hundreds of voices, men, women, all murmuring together. As I stood there, frozen in horror, the whispers began to merge, to unify, until they spoke as one, a single, chilling voice that filled the basement. "We heard you." In that moment of deafening silence that followed, a terrifying realization washed over me. The house wasn't repeating us, it was remembering. It was collecting sounds, hoarding voices. As the thought solidified in my mind, the very walls around me seemed to shift. They bulged outward, whoosed slightly, as if taking a deep breath. And then, all across the plaster, tiny holes began to open up, like pores, like thousands of tiny ears listening. I opened my mouth and screamed, a raw, primal sound of pure terror. And from the walls, the house answered me. It screamed back in a perfect, horrifying harmony of my own voice, multiplied 1,000 times over. "Emma, we're still listening." The house is silent now. The whispers have faded. But sometimes, when the wind blows, I see a curtain in the window move, slowly, rhythmically, like someone or something is still inside, breathing, still listening.